Put on your boots and cowboy hat and come with me to a lawless land full of outlaws, action, and of course, guns. But enough about Walmart. Today I'm talking about the Wild Wild West. A typical Western has plenty of shootouts, and Red Dead is no exception. The first game in the series is even called Red Dead Revolver, so I wanted to see, can you beat Red Dead Redemption without guns? The only limitation here is no using guns. I prioritized the knife and lasso, but when it wasn't possible to use those, I allowed myself to use throwables such as dynamite and fire bottles. As always, cutscene shots don't count. No glitches, no skipping missions, and I have to play the full story from start to finish. Let's go. The story of John Marston began by getting off a boat in the town of Blackwater. Just me, my revolver, and these friendly government officials demanding I take out my former gang members to save my family. I first boarded the train for Armadillo. What a sweet looking old lady. I wonder what she's about to say.
I don't want to be judgmental, but this state should not be ruled by such a disgusting family.
Oh. I arrived in Armadillo and I rode to my first target, Bill Williamson, which a lot of people don't know is actually short for William Sonoma. John pulled out a gun and immediately got shot. Should have been quicker. I woke up and was introduced to Bonnie McFarlane, who rescued me and demanded that I shoot some rabbits. I did absolutely nothing here, but still received praise.
Thank you, Mr. Marston. You know, you can actually handle a rifle.
Shortly after, Bonnie made the foolish mistake of challenging me to a horse race.
Don't go easy on me!
I absolutely embarrassed Bonnie in this horse race before driving her to Armadillo and getting some medicine from the doctor. Oh, you are lucky I don't have any money to buy this right now. I met the friendly citizens of Armadillo.
I wish I was dead.
And Bonnie was still upset about the race, so she ditched me. I made the acquaintance of the marshal, and I learned how to equip the knife, which would be huge for this entire playthrough. We went out to kill some bandits, and the sheriff wanted me to take this guy alive, which was foolish, because in this playthrough, guns don't kill people, but I do. The sheriff told me I was a good shot, which was setting me up for more imposter syndrome, but hey, I'll take a compliment. I bought a room in the nearby saloon and spoke to this woman whose son was taken, but it was a side quest, so rip to that kid. The marshal and his guys went to take out some cattle rustlers in Pike's Basin, so I tagged along. I had my trusty hunting knife, which was very effective and caused the marshal to yell at me all mission to shoot until we cleared the area.
Are you gonna shoot any of these rustlers, boy?
No.
You got one! Nice shot! Good shoot, boy!
After clearing out the basin, I went back to Bonnie and John opened up to her about his past. This also introduced me to my new favorite mission in the game, which was herding cattle. Then I met Mr. McFarlane and we talked politics, and at this point I got some rope so I could lasso horses, but more importantly, people.
Don't make me kill you, man.
I saved the stranger, Nigel West Dickens, and bandits chased us down, but if I kept going and I got close enough to town, they bailed without me firing any shots. So dramatic. I followed a trail left by bandits to this farm where the marshal asked me to shoot this door open. I had to reload a few times, but luckily the other guys shot all the planks for me. Then we had to clear the farmhouse of bandits, which wasn't too bad, but these guys on the top floor had hostages, so I had to strategically use my lasso to grab this guy before he could kill the hostage. We rode off to another area with bandits where I constantly ran back and forth between cover with my giant knife until the bandits were dead and we had captured Normandy. I got to herd more cows and afterwards set out to find Bonnie's dad. We found him and came back to the barn on fire. Climbing up to the barn roof here felt super clumsy, but I channeled Spider-Man, stuck the landing, and freed the horses. I knew something was off, and the next mission confirmed this when Bonnie was kidnapped. Her dad was kind of a dick to me though, and I refused to take slander from a walrus.
Who?
But I still made the long ride out to Tumbleweed. This bandit demanded we give back Normandy in exchange for Bonnie. Shockingly, it was a trap. I ran up to Bonnie to cut her loose, killed some outlaws, and then untied Bonnie. I picked up Nigel West Dickens to scam people with his tonic, downed a McDonald's Sprite, and Nigel demanded I shoot a skull which would somehow prove the tonic was working. And there was only one way for me to get out of doing this. Yo, this man is a fraud, everyone go get him! Yeah, this ends the no guns part of the challenge, as I sadly had to take one shot here.
Remarkable!
But I still continued the rest of the game to see how many times I would need to use a gun to beat the story.
This man is a fraud!
The skeptic didn't believe me, so I had to shoot his hat out of the air, which added one more. I then beat the hell out of him for making me fire a shot, and I needed another one to get this guy's gun knocked out of his hand. I felt no moral quandaries about scamming this ranch that I just saved from a bunch of bandits, but I did feel bad about shooting here 3 times. At this point, I started tracking stats, but they weren't quite as useful as in GTA 5 and were even a bit glitchy. Rather than shots fired, there's a bullets hit percent, but this only goes up if you hit a person, so my stats were still at 0%. Also, I realized after checking my stats that this shots fired from cover stat was at 5, but my bullets hit percent was still 0, so I don't know how it registered me shooting 5 times into the air from cover. Also, I somehow had 7 headshots despite having 0% bullets hit, so I guess knife kills can be headshots. As I said, the stats were a bit weird, so I had to use them selectively. Anyway, let's move on.
Well, I think that went kind of well, don't you?
No. After sacrificing my entire playthrough, Nigel pointed out Seth, who could help me get to Bill. On the way to Seth's chapel, I found this girl Jenny on the side of the road who looked pretty out of it, so I took care of her. Just kidding, I gave her some drugs I had on me instead. I met Seth, who was searching for a map, obsessing over a lost item and face looking like this. Yeah, that's Gollum. I offered to help him catch his former partner Moses that betrayed him. We got to Moses, and I had to steal a sheriff's horse to draw them away from Seth, and in the process got a wanted level, my only one in the entire game, but I was able to lose it and help catch Moses so Seth could question him. Seth got all of his friends together in a wagon so he could search for his map. Seth, that's disgusting, I can't believe you do that. Well, when I do it, it's for a good cause. For this wagon ride, I basically just rode a bit until enemies showed up, and then I lassoed them off their horses. Escort missions like this for the entire game had an easy trick where if I lassoed an enemy off a horse, they just ran to their horse and basically gave up on attacking me, so I did that until Seth found his map. The treasure map took us to Tumbleweed, and we had to fight our way to this mansion full of other bandits. I was able to knife my way through everyone except for this last guy on the 2nd floor of the house that had to be killed by Seth before we could go inside. I slashed my way through the rest of them, and Seth got his treasure box, which was a glass eye. Aww. I met back up with Nigel West Dickens and helped him scam more people in Gaptooth Breach, this time by winning a race. Then we went back to the classic method of scamming with his tonic, but these guys caught on pretty fast and were not happy. We got chased away, and I continuously hopped off the carriage to lasso and slash these guys. Eventually, we reached this patch with 2 wagons of TNT, and Nigel stopped and wouldn't let me drive. I restarted the checkpoint and also couldn't get enemies or Nigel to shoot the TNT for me, so in order to progress, I needed to shoot this TNT, and we were able to make it to the end of the section. Then I went to watch a very informative movie.
Wait, is this f***ing play about us?
I had to race people yet again for Nigel's scam, and then I scammed this guy myself in horseshoes. Oh, I'm so bad I've never played in my life. Nigel told me about another guy, Irish, that could help me, so I went to meet him and his friends.
Oh, hell's better than Wales! The French never won a fight in their bloody lives!
Irish, please, he's already dead. I went with my new friend to find a big gun we could use to get into Bill Williamson's hideout, and he led me to the shack full of bandits where I had some fun. I may not have had firepower, but I had fire power. Unfortunately, I was lied to, and the gun was not there. Man, this is too much like the last time I trusted a random Irishman.
Would you kindly pick up that shortwave radio?
I found the Irishman that scammed me, and he was a bit intoxicated, but for some reason I chose to trust him again.
It makes me violently angry.
Whoa there, don't sound too angry. We went to this mine site, and I had to slash my way through a cave full of miners to reach this minecart with the Gatling gun. We got it out of the cave, and I had to ride it down the hill. This one guy set up TNT on the track, and if I pushed the cart into it, I would fail and have to restart. I couldn't destroy it with my knife or lasso either, so it seemed like I had to shoot it. But if I positioned myself just right, I could get the guy who planted it to shoot the TNT, and thus I made it out of here without shooting a gun. Once we had our machine gun, we went to find Shaky, who could get some ammo for us. I had to slash these guys that had him tied up and help him escape through the warehouse. Irish and I were chased on our way out of town, but I just carefully hopped off the wagon a few times and used my lasso to pull these guys off their horses until we finally made it back to the ranch with our ammo. We gathered the troops to take Fort Mercer, and of course, I was put behind the Gatling gun. My allies suddenly became useless at this part, and I was the only one who could kill all of these enemies. This part was impossible to get through without using the gun, and it was hard to minimize shots for multiple reasons. For one, the gun was wildly inaccurate. There's a big circle where the bullets can go, and it's up to chance if my shots hit or not. I could shoot a few things like lanterns and TNT to get group kills, but having a perfect accuracy run for this section was near impossible. On top of all of this, if I missed a shot, the only way I could restart a mission was to die, so this was super tedious. Since I also didn't have a shots fired stat here, I couldn't even be sure I was accurately counting my shots, so it's a bit of a cop-out and it still counts against me, but I'm going to count this separately from the other shots fired counter. After clearing out this area, I could just stab the rest of the guys in the fort. After quickly doing so, I was put back in the saddle again. My allies did nothing until the final guy, which they killed, but they really couldn't have done anything sooner. Anyway, I think this section is the same as the first, where I can't avoid it and I have to shoot with this disgusting gun. I found out Bill wasn't at Fort Mercer, so I headed for Mexico to track him down.
They love me down there. It's like a second home.
Irish led me on a peaceful river cruise, and the people of Mexico made me feel very welcome. Ah, just like home. This level came down to patience and luck because there was little I could do from the raft except hide and draw fire from enemies so that Irish wasn't killed. I'm also very curious what Irish did to have this many haters shooting and throwing dynamite at us. Insane. I managed to lasso a couple guys, but otherwise I wasn't very useful offensively and I had to restart a ton of checkpoints. Eventually we made it to the end without shooting and somehow Irish died, but the mission didn't fail. It's confusing, but this took so many attempts I just accepted it. I made it to Mexico and celebrated my arrival by robbing this poker table blind. I came to this fort and met Captain DeSanta, who threatened me at first but turned out to be chill. I asked for his help finding Bill Williamson, who I had heard was with Javier Escuela. He told me another guy, Abraham Reyes, might know, but they needed help finding him too. I rode with the captain to protect this cargo train from rebels and had to lasso guys off horses before they did too much damage to the train. After the train made it to the station, some rebels hijacked it and I had to clear out the train before they drove it off a bridge. Lassoing guys here was near impossible and I was worried I might need to shoot. Luckily, after an absurd amount of clumsy attempts, I realized I could climb onto the train and run along it, awkwardly shoving every rebel in my way and stopping the train before it was destroyed. DeSanta demanded that I help clear out this rebel town, and my crimes against humanity were rewarded with fire bottles, which I had to use to commit arson on these rebels' houses. I had to ride shotgun with DeSanta because he was yelling at me that there was a traitor. We got ambushed right before getting to our destination and I had to jump off to stop these guys from destroying the convoy, but luckily, this man did not care if I lived or died, so he just kept going until we made it to this camp where we had to fight rebels. I picked up a sniper, but my allies killed everyone out of reach, so I didn't need to use it. I slowly knifed and lassoed my way forward with the army.
You are not shooting!
Yeah, that's the point. Until we reached this rebel base and we retook it. Following this, DeSanta offered me 20,000 pesos and Javier Escuela's location if I went with him to Chupa Rosa. Of course, we got ambushed, but these rebels sucked and I even stole a horse from one of them. I was tasked with protecting another train and of course the captain demanded I take the Gatling gun.
Don't leave the gun! What are you doing?
No, I don't think I will.
I died here multiple times, and the game always respawned me behind the gun, so at every checkpoint I jumped off the train and lassoed guys off horses until I could steal one. I basically just followed the train here and just barely made it to the end, with the engine still intact. I took some time to relax.
Can I interest you in a game of Lions Dice?
And I arrived in a new town and shot these 3 guys who insulted me, but it was all in a cutscene, so that's fine.
I mean you no harm.
What harm could you do to us?
A man named Landon Ricketts came up to me and introduced himself, offering to train me with a revolver, as if I needed that. I had to shoot 3 bottles, and at this point I was locked in place and couldn't move or do anything else. Dynamite and fire bottles were also not options because both would kill Landon Ricketts or this random drunk guy who just happened to be sleeping next to these bottles and caused me to fail. The only way to move was by slashing with my knife, but even then I couldn't shoot all 3 bottles with a shotgun because the game would realize I was out of position and stop me from progressing.
Dios mío! ¿Quién es el borracho aquí? ¿Tú o yo?
Look out!
So I had to shoot 3 times here. Then I was forced to shoot 2 vultures with Deadeye. I couldn't use my lasso, dynamite, or fire bottles for this, and 2 shots from the revolver was the only thing I could use. I have no idea why this chapter acted like Deadeye was such a big deal, as if it wasn't already introduced like 20 missions ago. Just after this training session, we came across a group of bandits that had robbed a bank cart and were holding someone hostage. I ended up lassoing the guy holding a hostage, so I didn't have to shoot, and the remaining 3 guys I could kill with ease. I boarded a train, and oh my god, I've had enough with trains. I'm not even 5 missions into Mexico, and this is exhausting. I was told a woman named Luisa might know Reyes, so I went to free her, and I slashed my way through a bunch of guys on the way in and out. Then I joined this game of poker and was so skilled that this guy accused me of cheating and challenged me to a duel. I had to kill him, but then another guy challenged me, so I had to kill him too. Each of these took 1 shot, and unfortunately, both duels were mandatory. Still, this added 2 more to my counter. I explained my beef with Bill to Lynn and Ricketts, and then Luisa burst in and demanded I help save some people who were going to be executed, so I went and helped. The enemy's aim here was freakishly good, but after enough suffering, I was able to kill the guy driving this carriage, and I drove the carriage to America to free the prisoners. I met Luisa's family, and they asked me to bring her sister to a boat so she could escape. There was a little fighting, but otherwise this was a straight shot to the end. I went back to Luisa to find out that Abraham Reyes was captured, so I had to go free him. This seemed like a doomed mission because I needed to snipe the executioner with this gun. I couldn't throw dynamite or fire bottles from the spot, and if I moved too close, I would get detected and the executioner would immediately shoot Reyes. It seemed like there was no way to sneak up or get a good angle to throw something. I tried so many things here until finally I came up with a strategy that worked. After waiting a minute, the executioner would eventually move away from Reyes. If I walked on this wall to the right, I could get just the right angle after he moved to hit him with a fire bottle and kill him. Once I killed him, the rest of the guys would focus on me instead of Reyes, and I could slice my way through. After freeing Reyes, he teleported onto this horse despite saying he was too weak, and he didn't remember Luisa's name.
¿Qué? Luisa, the girl you're marrying.
Laura, it's Luisa.
The bar for this man was already very high. I met with DeSanta again, and the captain told me that Bill and Javier were in Chuparosa. Shockingly, DeSanta tricked me and there was nobody there. Reyes saved me, and I was caught in the middle of a firefight. I climbed up on this roof to kill Captain Espinoza, and I gave him a little slash as a present. I came across some of Luisa's friends on my way to meet her.
Hey, senor, you want trouble, friend?
Luisa told me that her father was killed and talked me into helping the rebels with an ambush. I needed to set up dynamite to take out a military convoy, which was pretty straightforward. Nothing like a boost in honor after blowing up some wagons. After this act of defiance, Luisa and her group were ready to kill DeSanta. No, not you. Luisa said she'd stay with the camp to protect all the valuable items, I guess. We made it to DeSanta's hideout, and I wanted to take him alive, so I chased him down and hog-tied him. We got to bond over some rock, paper, scissors. Oh, it's rock again. He gave me Javier Escuela's location, so I rewarded him with a firing squad. Shockingly, this was another trap, and I had to slash my way through the army that ambushed me. The army was easy to kill, and boy were they salty about losing. Seriously messed up.
I sure hope you're dead, lady.
Reyes and I took an absurdly slow horse ride to go rob a train. At this point, I finally unlocked throwing knives, which were super useful. I stealthily took out these guys on the train and then detached the car, but I got a prompt to man the Gatling gun, which obviously was not happening, and oh man, there were so many enemies here. On top of that, they had their own Gatling gun. I couldn't stay in stealth because at a certain area I'd get detected, so I had to be very careful here and try to take these guys out one by one. After finally killing this mob of enemies, I stole the train and stopped it in the middle of nowhere. I blew open an armored car and learned how to crack into a safe, which was a useful skill I proceeded to never use again. Well, I don't need this. That's enough safe cracking for the entire game. I walked in on Reyes, being classy as usual, and suggested we break into the prison where I first found him. He made me drive a wagon of TNT into it so we could enter, and once inside, I found Javier Escuela, chased him down, and hog-tied him to get Bill's location. The army came after we took over the fort, and I did nothing to defend against them, but everyone else kinda carried here. I don't know why they made such a big deal for the army to send approximately 5 people. We were nearing the end of the Mexico storyline, and Luisa sadly got shot. I made quick work of these 2 guys that killed her, but for the third, John very stupidly agreed to a duel. Of course, this meant I needed to use 1 bullet to shoot this guy before I died. I came across a few more guys I had to take out, and then I had to free these imprisoned people, which, of course, meant I had to shoot 3 locks to do so. Other items didn't work on the locks, and explosives killed the people inside, causing me to fail, so this meant 3 more shots added to the counter. We moved our way up to this barrier to take out the army, and of course they had a machine gun. This meant I had to take cover, but eventually we got through. Once we took over the machine gun, Reyes wanted me to use it, but of course I refused. To open this door, I was told to shoot some gunpowder, but instead I threw a fire bottle at it to blow open the door before clearing out more guys inside and more soldiers that followed us in.
I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me.
Finally, it was time for me to catch Bill. I ran through the mansion and stole a horse to chase him. I cleared out his posse and the guys on his carriage, and the game glitched. More than once. After several attempts in killing the guys on the carriage, Bill came out of the wagon. At this point, I needed to execute him, and I was frozen in place with my revolver. Luckily, I could get around this by slashing with my knife to move forward and using it to kill Bill. Reyes disrespected Louisa even in her death, but I was able to finish the mission and head back to America. I caught Williamson and Escuela, but the Bureau demanded I catch Dutch before I could see my family again. On my way out of the police station, I saw Wes Dickens and had a chance to free him.
I'm being put under arrest and charged with narcotic possession or some other such nonsense.
Ross.
He did it, lock him up. I took a car ride which felt very off for this game, and then they had the nerve to accuse me of robbing banks. Which was true, but still.
You've robbed at least 40 banks that we're aware of.
They told us there was a prize when you got to 50.
We reached this boat and Dutch wasn't there, but Nastas, the informant, was. I had to carry him back out, and that meant I could only use a pistol, and I also had to make sure the informant stayed alive. I basically needed to hang back and rely on my ally to do everything here because I moved slowly and Nastas didn't regain health, so if he died, I failed. Luckily, my ally, Fordham, had infinite lives and just kept running in to very slowly pick off Dutch's men. I waited forever for this mission, but after long enough, I could run through to the car and escape. This mission took so long, and on top of that, our car broke down on the way back to Blackwater, and I had to fight even more of Dutch's men. Finally, we made it back, and I gave Nastas to this professor. I had to kill time before the next mission, so I caught another movie, and John loved it. I spoke with Professor McDougal, who was extremely condescending, and Nastas told me that he knew where I could find Dutch. We climbed up some cliffs, fought these guys in a cave, and Nastas ditched me just before I fought this bear. All part of the plan. I made it to the top of this mountain, and after getting a glimpse at Dutch, he knew immediately where I was and took me out, but luckily Nastas was there to save me. After a quick break, I came to the professor, who seemed extremely normal, and he said he had a meeting with Dutch. On the way, he shot at this bear, so we had to kill it. Eventually, we made it to the meeting, and Dutch's guys ambushed us and killed Nastas. I had to fight my way through the ambush, and eventually made it back with McDougal. I came to find McDougal panicking in his room, and Dutch casually threatened to kill us. Our only escape was the roof, where of course, this bandit grabbed McDougal, but luckily he was a terrible assassin, and I quickly lassoed him away. Still, I was kind of stuck on this roof. If I left the rooftop we were on, I would fail the mission, so my only option here was a lasso or projectiles for the remaining enemies. I could reach most of them with my lasso, but there was a wall on the surrounding roofs, so I couldn't drag them all off the roof with my lasso. These guys were also too far to hit with throwing knives, but not fire bottles. These last few guys I was able to lasso off. The third guy just randomly died, but hey, I made it through this part with just 2 fire bottles and my lasso. We were chased on horseback to the train station, but the guys following us really did not try, and that was the last I saw of my best academic friend as he left for Yale. To cheer myself up after McDougal left, I bought another place in Manzanita Post. What a lovely neighborhood. I went back to the Bureau, and they demanded I shoot at these bank robbers from a rooftop. If I didn't shoot, Dutch's men would escape and I'd fail. If I jumped off the roof, I would fail. If I breathed too loud, I would fail. But luckily the developers didn't consider this one easy workaround. Can't fail if you don't play. The bank was also way too far to hit with any projectiles, so it felt like I was doomed. If I got a perfect angle, I was able to launch dynamite far enough to kill these 2 guys running for horses. If I hit these 2 throws and waited for the Bureau to kill the remaining guys, they were pretty useless. If only we had one other person that could shoot. If I didn't shoot at the end, I'd fail the mission, so I found that 3 shots was the minimum I could get this number down to. After killing a few of Dutch's guys, I was finally able to rush the bank. This guy had the nerve to ask me to shoot a lock.
Shoot the lock off that door!
So I killed him.
Let's see how they like this.
Fortunately, I could break open this window and climb through that instead. I had to lasso a guy with the hostage, but otherwise I could stab the remaining guys in the bank. We chased down Dutch and killed a bunch of his guys. Of course, now that I could freely move, my team was finally useful. Dutch managed to get away, and I had to kill some time before the next mission, so I ended up clearing this poker table. And I still had plenty of time to spare. I asked for my family back and they rewarded me by shoving me on this disgusting machine gun. There was no option to hop off and I had to watch Dutch's men swarm me. They had crazy good accuracy and on top of that, they threw dynamite which would cause me to instantly fail if it landed near the truck. I found that if I looked away and down from these guys, they became significantly less accurate and the other Bureau guys would slowly take them out. Sadly though, this didn't matter and I spent well over an hour basically doing nothing here, and every time, a stick of dynamite eventually made its way onto the truck. At a certain point, I finally decided to shoot and clear out these guys. It was actually this exact point. Yeah, this is fine. Once again, like the earlier machine gun sections, I couldn't count my shots exactly, though this section definitely required fewer shots compared to Fort Mercer. After I helped out, they started running and we drove on. Of course, near the end of this mission, a wagon showed up and I did have to fire a couple of shots at it or we would crash and fail. But I'm counting this all as one continuous section since I didn't leave the Browning gun for the entire mission. We crashed and burned like this playthrough, and this led me directly into the next mission. We made it to Dutch's hideout and had to fight our way inside. I had plenty of backup, so this was no issue. I came across another Gatling gun, which meant there was an absurdly large group of enemies I had to take out with just my knife. After some fighting, we reached a gate and these guys appeared on the paths above. If I didn't kill them, they would kill these guys setting charges by the gate and I would fail. So I lobbed a few fire bottles and throwing knives at them to take them out. For some godforsaken reason,
I gotta face Dutch alone!
Literally why? Dutch isn't even alone himself. I had to take out his minions and get him off this machine gun. This was extremely frustrating because there was an invisible hitbox, so I couldn't throw stuff at Dutch.
Not in my house.
And if I ran too close, I would instantly die. Even if I touched a ladder, way back here in cover, I died. My only option was to shoot this lantern to get Dutch to move. I chased him through this tunnel to the top of the mountain and Dutch finally stopped fighting.
Oh my god! Oh jeez, oh my god!
At long last, I was going to be reunited with my family. The wife couldn't have been happier to see me.
You no good hillbilly piece of sh**.
I went with my son Jack to get more cattle since we had none, and I got to reunite with the McFarlands. They gave me some cattle and I had to herd it back to my ranch. On the way, we got attacked by bandits who killed a few cows, so I killed all of them. And Jack and I made it back with 12 cows. Meanwhile, Abigail was cooking dinner, I was cooking her.
Tastes bad enough to kill a man.
Are you sure know how to make a girl blush?
And I was tasked with cooking these crows eating corn from our silo. Since I couldn't shoot, I perfectly timed some dynamite tosses and made popcorn. Then I received a letter from Bonnie.
You read that thing out loud?
Dear Mr. Marston, need sacks. Emergency. Not exactly the most romantic request now, is it?
So I went with Abigail on a long trip there and back to bring some corn sacks. I went to see Uncle, who took great care of our farm. We had to take some cattle out to pasture, and I had the choice between staying with the herd or chasing outlaws, but I chose the herd because I didn't want to deal with more unnecessary combat. Uncle and I had a good talk.
I'll give you a bad case if someone just shot me in the head if you don't hurry up.
And I made him accompany me as I caught a few more horses, and we called it a day. I chose to give Jack a lesson on tracking elk. Alright, first lesson, you gotta sneak up real slow and quiet.
Stay calm.
Perfect.
Hope you were watching. It'll be your turn next.
Jack even got his knife out, following the good example I set for this entire game, and we sold the meat before returning home. I needed some help taking out these wolves, so I brought Jack with me and we cleaned him up. This gave him way too much confidence because Uncle came to tell me that Jack went to hunt a grizzly on his own. I made it to the grizzly. Don't worry, I've taken out one of these before. And at first, it went just as well as last time, but I outsmarted it and finished the job with my knife. I made it to the final mission, and I walked slowly to the barn knowing what was coming.
Is there anything you don't like shooting, Paul?
Yes, literally everything. The ranch got ambushed, and I had to fight off some soldiers, but I cleared the first group. Uncle got hit and sadly didn't make it. I cleared some guys by the barn, and I fought one final group before making it inside the barn with Jack and Abigail, and I didn't even have to kill that many people. I dreaded what was coming next, but the game glitched. It was supposed to be a cutscene, but nothing was playing, and I was frozen behind this barn door. I replayed the mission again, and once again, I faced the same glitch. On the third attempt, I strategically switched to my revolver in hopes that it would stop the same glitch as the last 2 attempts, and this time I was able to open the barn door and immediately went into Deadeye. I didn't shoot, and instead, I was filled with bullets. An entire adventure minimizing bullets, and I probably got shot more times in this cutscene than shots I fired in the rest of the game. I switched over to Jack, and this marked the end of John Marston's story. In total, I only shot 19 times, along with the 3 machine gun sections, which I was pretty happy with. And if you're curious, here are what my combat stats looked like at the end of the game. Again, shots fired is only a percentage here, but these still prove that I wasn't killing enemies outside of what I claimed. I really enjoyed this game, and if you guys liked the challenge, please subscribe to Epic Cakes Gaming for more challenge videos, and I just may do one for the sequel. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.